Let's take a look at the implement step of the problem-solving model. Step 4 of the problem-solving model is implement, putting one best solution into effect. Moving from brainstorming to implementation is a significant milestone when you're solving a problem. Before you put your one best solution into effect, your goal should be to identify and develop it by evaluating and analyzing each of your alternatives carefully. How will your alternatives compare to one another and which one will stand out? Develop some criteria you can use to assess the merits of each one. Measure the value of available possibilities to overcome your problem. Now that you've generated as many alternatives as you can, evaluate each one carefully. Using objective criteria helps you to avoid making decisions based on emotion or snap judgments. To select a solution from the alternatives you've developed, develop an appropriate way to evaluate them. Is the decision small enough that you can choose intuitively? If not, consider the pros and cons of each alternative and how you can objectively measure them. Select criteria. Evaluation criteria are the variables that drive your decisions. Use more than one of these when evaluating alternatives. Weight your criteria. If your problem is complex, consider all of its dimensions as you evaluate alternatives. However, not all criteria are equally important. To take the difference into account, assign weights to each option. This helps determine how much influence each has on your decision. Rate your alternatives. Rank each based on your criteria and the weight it's assigned, or compare each alternative to the others and determine which is selected the most often. You can use an analytical hierarchy matrix to rate alternatives based on these comparisons. SWOT analysis is a strategic tool that you can use to identify your strongest solution. For each alternative, identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to determine which option is your best bet. Consider the strengths and weaknesses to best navigate the opportunities and threats of each alternative. SWOT analysis is a strategic planning exercise that you can use to evaluate a product, project, person, or in this case, a list of alternatives to identify one best solution. SWOT analysis allows you to look at your alternatives in new ways and in new directions. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which are defined further here. Strengths and weaknesses are internal to the alternative itself. What about the idea makes it stand out or falter? Opportunities and threats are external things. What's going on outside the problem, relationships, team, organization, environment that contribute to the success or failure of the solution. You can take advantage of opportunities and protect against threats, but you can't change them. Once your SWOT analysis is complete, you can convert your assessment into a strategy. The first step is to look at your strengths and figure out how they can help you take advantage of your opportunities. Then, consider how they can combat the threats you'll be facing. When you take the time to do a SWOT analysis, you'll be prepared with a solid strategy for prioritizing and selecting your alternatives. Choose the best alternatives and use it to develop a solution to your problem. Do not be concerned if the selected alternative isn't perfect. Complex problems rarely have ideal solutions. Make sure that you feel comfortable with the alternative that you choose. Once you've analyzed your choices, get ready to take action. As you implement your solution, think about the real steps you can take and the measures you can use to assess to know if what you've done is working. Propose a course of action guided by a clear vision to achieve meaningful and measurable results. You've discovered a problem, spent time investigating, brainstorming solutions, and weighed the merits of each alternative. Now it's time to trust the work that you've done and make a plan to move forward. A strong action plan maps out the steps you'll take to implement your one best solution. Define actions, performance goals, and set deadlines to give you clarity about your next steps. A simple plan structure to follow includes these components. The outcome. It's the result of implementing your solution. Strong outcomes articulate a clear improvement or define how much improvement will take place. Beginning outcomes with words like increase or decrease helps. Actions are the specific activities you will do to achieve the outcome. Strong actions always start with a verb. For each outcome, consider up to 3 actions. Performance measures. A quantifiable measure of how well each action is working. Different types of measures include quantity, how much did you do, quality, how well did you do it, and impact, is anyone better off? Timeline. It's the date or date range an action will be accomplished. Accountability. The person that's responsible for the action and is accountable for its completion. Recognize that an action plan represents change and people and organizations tend to resist change. Involve members of the team and other stakeholders in the organization to build an agreement that can be sustained as the problem is solved. Successfully implementing a plan will require accountability structures, clear communication, and tracking progress.